Good to see you all this morning, and we all know what today is. And the title of my sermon this morning is A Special Day. And I want to ask you this question: what does today mean to you? Just kind of maybe put that thought in your mind. As a mother, as a child, as a or whatever age group we are, what does today mean to you? Is it a special day? Some people maybe has mixed feelings, but what does it mean to you today? And I know in this day and age where motherhood is looked down upon, it's not something that's treasured. It's something that people that they look at it as it's something that's going to hold you down. I think it's all the more important that we celebrate the ladies and the mothers in this world because that is a definite a job that is beyond measure, um, and it's not something that's going to hold you back. Motherhood is something that is a treasure. The job of a mother, what they do for their children, that is something that's very special. That bond is very special. I know the other night, Katie had some bloody noses and stuff, and Brandy got up with her 2 or 3 times, and then I said, "I'll get up with you," and she goes, "No, I want my mom." There's just some things that mom can do that dad can't, you know, and that's just one of those special bonds for them. And today, I think as we look at this, we want to think a few things, but I want to think about the sacrifices that moms make for their children. A lot of times as a young adults or teenagers and stuff, we forget that. We forget the sacrifices that they make for us. And as we look back on that, many of us are maybe ashamed of how we acted in our teenage years and maybe in our early 20s, and we look back and maybe when we are that parent and we're getting treated the way we treated our parents, that realization of that. But we need to think about the sacrifices that moms make. And on a side note is that we need to probably do that more than once a year. We need to do that every day. And I know in this culture, in this world, that the traditional family is something looked down upon. But man, to be a mom and to raise your kids and to nurture them, that is something special. That is probably one of the most important jobs in the world. So this morning, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to give a couple of comparisons about mothers and but as we get started in Proverbs chapter 31, there's actually a whole ministry that's called Proverbs 31 Ministry. But as we get started this morning, it's going to give a comparison of two different kinds of women, and I'm not picking on the women today. It's just this is today's. I'll pick on the guys on their day, but there's two comparisons of women and how we can be, and there's choices in this world. Okay, as we get started this morning, there's going to be two sides of this in Proverbs 31. There's the wild woman, and there's the virtuous woman. Okay, so as we get started this morning in Proverbs 31:1. It says, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. So as we get started to sing, we get started to, I'm not singing, but anyway, as we get started today, this is the words from the king that his mother taught him. Things that his mother taught him, okay? So this is where this is coming from. But it says, what my son, and what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows. Give not thy strength unto the woman, nor the ways to that which destroyeth kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for the kings to drink wine, nor the princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Give strong drink unto them that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember of his misery no more. Open thy mouth for the dumb, in the case of all such as are pointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. And there's a lot in this here, but I'm going to give you the gist of this. As she said, always his mother taught him to be a good man. Make good choices. Listen to what we've been taught, what we've been nurtured, and make good choices. And there's going to be so many things in this world, whether you're a man or a woman, there's choices that we make. There's choices that we do. There's paths that we take. Think about the things that you've been taught. Never forget those things. So many things that we take light of what we were taught as children by our parents. There's a reason for that. I wish that we had infinite wisdom and we never messed up and we're just there to give it to you. But for most of the young people, you know what? Most of the wisdom of us parents was experience, was mistakes. things that we did that we wished we hadn't, things that we wished we would have passed up. Okay? It's not that we are sitting up here and we just have all the answers. We had some hard times. Most of us went through the school of hard knocks, moms included. And there's things that we experience that we don't want our children to experience. And as this mom was speaking this to this king, or he was thinking about this, he says, remember the things that mom taught me. Remember those lessons. Remember those things, okay? And it'll help us. It'll help us in that way, that there's a lot of paths that we take that we shouldn't. And the next section from 10 to 31 speaks of the woman that does this, okay? In verse 10, I want you to maybe underline this verse or highlight it or something in your Bible. But this speaks of, it says, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. I want to go back to our culture today, that womanhood, that a mom, that a parent is looked down upon. It says right here that it's priceless. A good mother is priceless. It's one of those things in this life that we need. I want you to think about that as you look at how you evaluate life and what's important. And it gives you an example here. It says, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. It says a virtuous woman, a good woman, it says that's all her husband ever needs. As we go on, it says she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ship. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion of her maidens. She considereth the field, and buyeth it with the fruit of her hands. She planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the shaft. She stretcheth out her hands to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all of her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry, her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and she delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. I want you to think about just all of that, and you're thinking, man, that's a lot. What is going on here? And it says, Mom is there to fill in the gap. Mom is there that she's going to prepare those things for you. She's going to get things ready. She's going to be there, well, no matter how long it takes, if she spends night. We think about the things that they do for us, the sacrifices that they make. I know in school, a lot of things right now is crazy. All the events and all the things that you have to attend. And it says here, that sometimes it's overlooked what mom does behind the scenes, of all the things that she prepares and gets ready for. And she's ready to get you there. I know when our kids was in sports and all that, they seemed like that they always got there and was ready for that. Even snacks on the bus, even when wasn't time to eat. But I want you to think about just the treasure that is, and the necessity that is that we need. Because if we don't have that, if we feel that's beneath us, then we miss out on a blessing. We miss out on the blessings of the traditional, the family of God intended for us to be, the caretakers. If nobody's going to be the caretaker, who is? In lots of circles, you see people that sit on a pedestal and say they want servants. A mother's not that. A mother decides to be the servant, and she sees the need of her family. And she does that many times without praise, many times with complaint that it wasn't exactly what we wanted. I always bring that up. Lots of times in my younger days that you've seen stuff that our parents sacrificed for us, and we complained. You look back on that, and it's sad. Whatever status you are in your finances, A lot of times it's a lot of sacrifice. A lot of sacrifice that as young people we don't understand. We just see a world that says you have to have this to make you happy. And it's got to be name brand. And we got to have everything perfect. And we're entitled to that. We're not entitled to anything. You know, we're entitled to judgment is what we are. But today as we celebrate mothers, I want you to continue to think about the sacrifices that they make, the things that they do, as I said before, behind the scenes. As we continue on, it says, she opened her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. Mama may have things she wants to be done, but it seems like she does it in kindness. She does it in those things with love. Sometimes maybe she's tired and she's cranky, and it don't sound like love. But beneath it is love. It is love. And all of you grinning, kind of laughing, but you know there's them days, there's them weeks that don't seem like they're ever going to end, and you still do what you got to do. And sometimes what's in here doesn't come out here, right? But I want everybody to think about just the motive that they have. Think about that. She looks well into the ways of her household, and eateth not of the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excelleth them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that is feared in the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruits of her hand, and let her own works praise her in the gates. What do you put your faith in? We talk a lot about our future. We talk a lot about, retirement plans and what I'm going to do and our accounts and our money and what we put our faith in or our hope in. When we look at in here in verse 30, it says, the world wants us to have shiny things. And God says, I want you to look at the heart. I want you to look at the heart. As some of you ladies, I'm not going to maybe get in trouble. As you get older, shiny's not exactly what you would consider yourself anymore, right? Things change. Your body changes. That's the way of as we get older. If what's on the outside is that's all we have, that's the only connection that we have, sometimes that's going to fade with time. And it's talking about a virtuous, a Christian woman. It says that inside of her heart never fades away. Maybe the things on the outside won't look the same as she gets older, but if she has a heart for God and a love for God and a love for her family, that never diminishes and never goes away, and that's priceless. Because as we get older, things are going to change. We don't look like we used to. None of us do, right? She is blessed for this. I want to go to 1 Corinthians now. And I want kind of just, I guess, explain myself in a sense before I start on this. This is basically the chapter that they call the chapter of love, right? If you know what that means, if you've studied your Bible, a lot of people will go to this and they'll say, this is what love means. Well, I want to kind of expand that a little bit without adding or taking away from the Bible. But I would like to expand this, that I think this also describes a mother's love. A mother's love. So as we get started, I want to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 13. I just want you to listen to this. And in my Bible, it says charity, but I'm going to say love for each time that it does that because it means the same thing. But in verse 4, it says, love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself and is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own, and is not easily provoked, thinking no evil. Rejoice not in iniquity, but rejoice in the truth. Beareth all things, and believeth all things, hopeth all things, and endureth all things. Love never faileth, but where there is prophecies, there shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, we prophesy in part. But when we that which is imperfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. And I want to stop here for a minute. I want you to think about a mother's love. There's lots of things come and go in our life. There's a lot of transitioning right now, just especially as a school year and these things happen. Lots of graduations are going. We have a lot of beginnings and endings in our life, right? A mother's love does not end. And I think the description of these things, and we see this, and we go through this right here. I want you to think about that and put it maybe in a new light. That the love that they have for us, the love that they show us, I think this is a very good description. And when things come and go, when trends come and go, a mother's love never does. Um, a mother will love us even when we don't deserve to be loved. And a lot of times we've been there. In verse 10 it says, "But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things." I want to go back to those things I said a minute ago. There's our perception of life hopefully changes as we grow older. How we see things, how we look at experiences. One of the things I was thinking about this week was talking about rain. I think it was Monday night, about 6 o'clock, we got an inch of rain. We hadn't had rain for a long time. So when it quit, I ran outside and seen how much we got. We'd got an inch of rain. I thought, man, that is awesome. I was so happy. And then I was kind of flipping through Facebook, and I seen somebody that got 2.5. You know what happened? I got mad. Well, why in the heck did they get that? I only got an inch. And 10 minutes ago, I was thrilled that we got an inch. You know, our perception, that's Satan, that we're never happy, that we always want more. We just continually want more. You know what? God's going to give us what we need. We don't have to focus on what somebody else is getting or what they're experiencing or what they're doing. Think about the goodness that God is blessing your life. You know, a relationship with Jesus is a personal relationship between you and him. It don't have to be anybody else. Okay? And I want you to think, as we look at that, as we thought as a child and we looked at those things as a child, a lot of times we were selfish. And as we grow up, we start to see the sacrifices and we start to see the things that were given to us. And as we become adults, hopefully we think like an adult. You know what I think's wrong with America today? We're not thinking like adults. For now we see through a glass darkly, but when face to face, now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as I am known. This speaks of not a mother, but it speaks of a time when this world's not making sense right now, but when we stand before Jesus Christ and we're in heaven, and he says, "Come on in, faithful servant," we're going to know exactly why everything happened the way it happened. We're going to remember all of the things in life, all of the experiences. Right now, the uncertainty of life scares us maybe, right? I want to go back to moms, because what did moms tell you when you're scared? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I want to go a little further past mom. Jesus will hold you in the tough times. Jesus will hold you. There's so many accounts and bad occasions where children speak of a terrible situation, and they speak of a man holding them in those situations. I know who that man was. That man was Jesus. For each and every one of us, I want you to think about this. Remember the things that mom taught you. You know, how many times does a mom beg us to come to church? Want us to change. Want us to make better decisions than what we're making. Remember, as it's the king here, remember what mom taught you. Okay? In verse 13, as it wraps up this chapter of love, says this. It says, "And now abiding faith and hope and love." These three is essentials in our life. Faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. We want all the answers. We want to know what the future holds. We want to know all these things. But the greatest thing that we can do is love. And if we follow Jesus Christ, and the only way that we can truly love is allow Him to show us. And if we would love like Jesus loved, everything in our life would change. If we had the same thought pattern that Jesus had, the same motives that Jesus had, what would our life look like? It'd be a lot different. We wouldn't be offended at everything that we thought we were missing out on. Right? I want to flip over to Ephesians chapter 6. One through 3. I don't think there's an age limit on this in a sense. We don't outgrow this. It says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. That's pretty plain right there. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. You know, there's a lot of things if we would just do what God asks us to do, whether we're a child, whether we're a teenager, whether we're a young adult, or we're an old adult. If we would just obey God, what would our life look like? I was talking to a teacher last night at graduation, and we were talking about, the signs of the time and the environment of the classroom. He said, I don't know. I said, I don't know how long I'll be in it. We got to talking, so when our age group, when we was young, I won't lie, we were wild. We done stupid things. But we had respect. We had respect. Me and Dad talked about, said, you may do all kinds of crazy things, but you respected Sundays. You respected adults. You respected, there was lines you did not cross. Today there is no respect. I think a product of that is because the family's not what the family used to be. Parents, we're not teaching our kids the way we should teach them. We're not teaching them God's commandments. We put it on them a lot. They're just not listening. It's kind of tough to say right now, but sometimes I think it's because we're not teaching. And one of the things that we do in life is we may not be this crazy addict or somebody going down a terrible, destructive path. But we can be too busy not to put God first. And it's affecting our lives. It's affecting our families. It's affecting the way we live. A saying was, you hear this when a kid gets in trouble, don't you know any better? In this day and age, they don't. A lot of them do not know right and wrong. They have no respect, don't know what respect is. I give the teachers credit for what they put up with in administrations and stuff. When I was a kid, I got in trouble. It was like, do whatever you want to me here, and don't call home. Paddle me every day, whatever you want to do, don't call home. You know what today happens? Now the parents come to school and threaten to kill the teachers or the principal. I knew right and wrong, and I knew when I was wrong. We need to get back to that tradition. We need to get back to our roots and listen to what we've been taught. And for the young people, us adults, we need to teach them that. Not be scared of what the world might think. Because the thing about it is I don't know where this world's going or what they're doing, but the kids today, and I'm not picking on you young people. I'm talking about in general, in society. When we don't follow God's, what He's given us, we can't live in society. We can't be successful. They can't function. And we say this Bible's not adequate. This Bible doesn't affect our life. Well, it affects every aspect of our life. Kind of got on a rabbit trail there for a minute, but let's get back. Why don't you go back to verse 3? That it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on this earth, if we follow the teachings of God, our life will be much better. I want to go back to Proverbs 1:8. Eight and 9. So I'm going to back up to 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the laws of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace into thy head, and chains about thy neck. You ever hear that right before you get a whooping? This hurts me more than you. And I remember thinking, not for where I'm standing. It's important for us to understand that, and I'll go back to moms, is men, they love us. And they just want the best for us. And sometimes the things that they do we don't understand. But I believe maybe if we don't see it at the time, what they do is because of love. And endless love, unconditional love. As we draw close to today, I want to read a few quotes to you from a few different people. What is a godly mother? A godly mother is one who loves the Lord their God with all her heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then passionately, consistently, and unrelentlessly teaches her children to do the same. Elizabeth George. I want you to know how that starts, is she gives her heart to God. The second one is, no man is poor who has a godly mother. Abraham Lincoln. The next one, only God himself fully appreciates the influence of a Christian mother in the molding of the character of her children. Billy Graham. Those who think that a woman detained at home by her little family is doing nothing think the reverse of what is true. Scarcely can the godly mother quit her home for a place of worship, but dream not that she is lost to the work of the church. Far from it. She is doing the best possible service for her Lord. Mothers, the godly training of your offspring is the first and most precious duty. Charles Spurgeon. Man, what if we had leaders like this that had quotes like this? What if we had presidents that spoke like this, that spoke of God consistently and constantly, and they lived it? I think today a lot of people may quote the Bible, but they don't live it. Politicians. What if we had preachers and women of faith that stand up and speak the truth? Today's a special day to appreciate mothers. But I think we should do that every day. I think we should appreciate what God has given us and the duties that God has given us. I said this morning that we're talking about ladies, but I think men as well. It's important for Christians to stand and start teaching those around us the Word of God, so people know it. Several years ago, I gave a demonstration of what Emma was on the school bus one time. She came home and says, this little girl had no idea who Jesus was. She said, so I told her. That's been lots of years ago. What do you think today's like? How many kids on the school bus know about Jesus? How many kids in the schoolroom or in our neighborhoods? I went to Walmart earlier this morning to get some things for Mother's Day, some stuff we're going to cook and stuff, and I was amazed at how full Walmart was. No intention at being at church. Had plans. The world's going to pass us up, and Jesus is going to come and take his own, and people's going to miss it. When Jesus stands in the clouds and calls your name, the Christians, there's going to be a whole lot of people. In the Bible it says people won't even know they're gone. The scary part is, I heard a preacher say one time, he says, when the rapture happens, the churches will still be full. And they'll still have Sunday service, just like they always do. As I see current events and I see the things that we think is important today, and we've forgotten what is important, it's time for us as Christians to remember what's important, to know that we have hope, to know that we have a future. In our Sunday school lesson in Revelations, we've been describing the new Jerusalem, the new world. And it basically speaks of a city that they can't even hardly describe with words because of how wonderful and magnificent it is. And in our Sunday school lesson this morning, it went a little bit further than that because it says, although that is going to be a wonderful and magnificent place, the relationship that Christian people, men and women, have with Jesus Christ and God, the creator of this universe, will be even better. Don't be ashamed to be a Christian. Don't be ashamed to teach your values and make a stand for what's right. It impacts people's lives like you would never believe. And even when they don't just turn and do exactly what you want right now, you still planted the seed. And hopefully someday people say, hey, I remember that. Something happens in their life and they say, hey, I remember that Sunday school class. I remember that teacher. I remember that person that stopped and prayed with me. And a lot of times, sometimes a mom may not be your physical mom. It could be somebody that impacted your life, that wanted to teach us a lesson. As we get ready to have an invitation, I want you to just take a moment to pray, take a moment with God, spend some time with Him. We're going to play a song. Just listen to these words.